Before his conversion, St. Ignatius was all about social conventions. We know that because of the butchery he went through when he was recuperating from that terrible cannonball wound at his home in Loyola. When he was recuperating, he asked that they cut off a protuberance that was left from the healing of that leg, to cut it off with a saw. More pain than he'd ever experienced. But he wanted that so that he could wear those tight fitting hose, and people wouldn't look at and have a remembrance of a disfigurement that he had gone through. We know that too because he used to take care of his hair and his nails, because he stopped doing that after his conversion. And because he was raised in a certain court environment, we know that he picked up some of those habits, and they became ingrained with him. He was a gentleman in many, many ways. And as much as those social conventions were important to him before his conversion, he jettisoned them afterwards. Jettisoned them in many ways. First of all, he let his hair grow and his nails, even to the point that one day he decided he needed to change that because people weren't, it wasn't allowing him to deal with people in the way that he thought. He jettisoned that in the fact that he would go to school as an older man, with children. He jettisoned that in that he would beg, something that he would no more have done before his conversion. Beg, so asking people, please give me money so that I can survive. Something he would never have done before. That he would stay in hospitals and among the poor. Even when he went back to Loyola for a visit, he wouldn't stay with his family. He stayed in the local hospital there and helped out there too. He put social conventions to the side in what he planned to do with his life. No more would he follow the path that he had before, and his brother even sent someone after him to try to make sure that he didn't do what he was planning on doing, which is giving everything, leaving his sword and everything to the Madonna there at Montserrat, and exchanging clothes with a beggar on his way down the hill. And because of that, St. Ignatius became someone who was fearless in doing what God wanted once he decided that's what God wanted to do. He wasn't looking around saying, what will people think? He was saying, what does God want me to do? Sometimes he had to temper that later, his immediate tendency sometimes to a certain extremity, but he always was focused more on what God wanted him to do. In fact, when people would enter the Jesuits, it'd be a while before they would be clothed in a cassock, and he would often have them wear the clothes that they arrived in, even as those clothes began to fall apart. And so they would be wearing wealthy clothes, but now reduced to rags, and the contrast, he thought, was probably good for their humility. And I bring that up now because so often we first look at what people think, and then afterwards what God might want. Or we might say, what does God want? But we kind of put it in a category but it can't be too much against the social conventions. And that's not something St. Ignatius necessarily would do. He was so aware that God had new plans for people, and we needed to follow those new plans of God and not follow what other people would think. We know that peer pressure, it doesn't end with acne, it continues all our lives. Social conventions are things that we have to be very careful of. And so with St. Ignatius, with his wisdom, I think it's good for us now to ask ourselves when we feel that call of God to say, am I turning away from it, or am I watering it down because I'm a little concerned what other people might think? Or am I willing to listen to God and follow God as fully as I can, no matter what other people might think? That's the wisdom of St. Ignatius for today.